talk about some resources and some tools that I've found super helpful when I'm teaching. One of them is one of the most basic tools out there. It's called Dynalist. I think dynalist.io is the website. It basically is just like a text editor with some outlining capabilities. And yet, it is one of the most helpful teaching tools I've ever used. So one cool thing, you can actually organize your whole class in Dynalist and then just pop out things as needed. So for example, this was a class I taught called Integrative Seminar, and you can have the schedule up here. Okay, what's the daily routine? What things we're going to do every day? Okay, we're going to do some book presentations. People can sign up. This whole thing is collaborative, so anyone in your class can write here. Every day I want to do a book presentation, a chapter, an article, things like that. And then, okay, if we're talking about truth, we're going to do a daily prayer. We're going to study some texts. You're going to read scripture. Here's some articles. It can be pretty helpful. Sometimes it can get busy if you put too much here. The one nice thing, though, is any student can expand or contract as they see fit. And then, you can put your class components. Okay, here's the assignments. Here's the goals for the class, FAQ, any of those things, introduction. And then you can just put all the class texts in one place. So it's like, okay, I know what books are we studying, what videos we might watch in the class, or articles, what are we going to read? And then you can even have them choose. Okay, we're going to discuss an article tomorrow. Which ones are you guys most interested in discussing? And so they can look at this whole list and pick the ones. You can even have a brief write-up about each article, whatever. So it's a really good way to organize a class in kind of a simple, clear way. You can change the color of each thing just to kind of help make it easy. The other nice thing is you can actually do discussions on here and have exactly what students are saying. So somebody, you can talk about whatever, truth, and then one of my favorite things is actually called a question formulation technique. And so what you do is you just say a question focus. So for example, finding truth. And then the class comes up with like 20 to 25 questions. And you write them down exactly as they say them. And then you let them vote. You say, okay, everybody put an X next to the question that you're actually most curious about talking about. And it is crazy because the students came up with the questions and they voted on which ones they want to talk about. The level of engagement and ownership of the discussion just skyrockets compared to, as a teacher, you coming up with your own questions. So I really like how well this works. You can also have students write a response and then share those responses in class, or you can just talk about maybe the 4 or 5 most popular questions. So I think this is the habit. I try to do one QFT every day. QFT stands for Question Formulation Technique. It's this whole thing. There's a whole book about it. It has kind of revolutionized my teaching. It's very repeatable, and you actually don't even need to do as much preparation. You just need to come up with question focus and then kind of lead the discussion. But Dynalist is the best tool I've found for it because you can choose the question. Voting's really easy, and then you can even drag the things that students have talked about. Like, okay, this one is really popular, so you just drag it up there, and that's really helpful. So yeah, highly recommend question formulation technique, and Dynalist is really good. One other thing that you can actually do here is you can do feedback. So somebody came and was giving a presentation, then you can have the whole class give feedback on that presentation. So I don't want to give you, let you see too much specifics, but basically it's really, really quick way. You can take 2 minutes and then the whole class gives feedback rather than just a couple people say something spoken out loud. So it's really an efficient way to get a lot more feedback. Every time somebody, stands up and gives a presentation, you can talk about how was their poise, their voice, their eye contact, gestures, life, speed of delivery, things like that. It's a helpful way to improve and get lots of feedback quickly and hear what your classmates are thinking. So I use Dynalist, specifically for class discussions and for feedback. It is excellent. And because it's only text, it's much faster than most other apps that are out there. It's also a good way for students just to be able to post a link quickly. I know other tools can do this, but they can sign up to say, okay, I'm going to do this book chapter, and here's the link to my Google slideshow. So then you just click on that link in class, and everything's easier. It's just a nice way to kind of organize things together. The one other tool that I want to show is called Capacities. This is like a phenomenal app for teaching, but also just for life. It is a really cool way to organize a class, and it's free for a very generous basic tier. One thing that's better about Capacities is you can upload photos, and it's organized similar to the app Notion. You can make pages within your page pretty easily, and there is also, you can do links, and even you can do the class schedule. So for example, here you can put a table pretty easily, and then if you click on the day, so I click on Tuesday, I was able to just, in kind of a brainstorming or outlining app, say, here's what we're going to do in class for the day. So it really makes it easy to show students, oh, okay, I know exactly what to expect. We'll start with a quiz, we'll spend some time with God, we'll do a discussion on a sermon, speech presentations, whatever. Putting it in the top of the day helps students, especially those who get distracted easily or who are worried what's going to come up next, just to know exactly what to expect, and they can kind of refer back to it. The other cool thing is you can actually put all the notes from the day up here. So sometimes if the whiteboard marker is not working or whatever, I really like just to write your notes here. It's like white, it's very simple, easy to put ideas. You can throw up images, and then the whole class is able to access all the notes immediately. And then at the end of every day, I also like to do a quiz, but I want the students to come up with a quiz because then they're going to remember the questions better. So they come up with a quiz, you do a practice quiz at the end of the day, and then the next morning you do the quiz for real, and then they've already done it once, they've already had a night to practice, and so it just really solidifies that information. They've heard it during class, they've done the practice, and then they do the real quiz, and then you can also do a final quiz at the end of the class, and then that way they've kind of accessed that information 4 different times, and they're far more likely to remember it than if they just hear it once and then it's on a final, or there's no final exam. So that's something cool. I like to keep it low stakes as well. So for the quizzes, I just do 1% of their final mark. So they're not freaking out about it. It's okay if they have a bad day, but it gives them just that little bit of motivation to study. And then the final exam usually is only worth 5%. So again, they're not like stressing out, but they often put a lot of work into it, and they're doing it more for their own learning than they are for a high mark. So I find this incredibly helpful just to organize the content of the class day by day, and then also put important links. For Oricom, it's like, oh, here's the prompts. Here's some of the things you can choose from to talk about. Here is some of the principles of the class or speeches that we're going to study. You can easily make these things, and then the cool thing is you can reuse them. So if you're teaching the same class again, you can just link to that page that you've already made and reuse it for the next class. So it's a pretty cool tool for organizing the day, for signing up for things. The one area where Dynalist is better than Capacities is for collaborative things. Capacities is really good for one person, but it's not as good at multiple people editing something at once. So this is mainly more for putting knowledge out there that people can have access and they can see. The other thing that is nice about Capacities is you can use it for your regular journaling. In the middle of journaling, you can hashtag anything that you come up with. So any cool ideas, you can take links and have a whole bunch of links and then make collections for a specific class. So it's just an excellent way to have all of your ideas in one place, all of the texts that you'd ever want to study or teach from in one place. And you can even track other things. So, for example, I'm like tracking the first words that my daughter has ever said. It's all in one place, or whatever. So it's a pretty cool app that is better than just for teaching classes, but it is excellent for teaching classes, customizing things, uploading photos, and it's all free, which is really nice. So this one is capacities.io if you're interested.